Welcome to the Time Capsule, where we analyze history to find lessons worth learning. The life of the grave dancer, Zell. We're going to study the history of Zell, the grave dancer. We're going to see how a first generation born immigrant from a family that were escapees from the German persecution during World War II was able to amass a massive financial fortune. And this will provide an example of what's possible for you and me. Zell was born in 1941 in Chicago. His parents were Rochelle and Barek Zelanka, who immigrated from Poland 4 months before his birth to escape Nazi invasion. His father was a successful grain merchant in Poland. In order to escape the Nazis, they fled through Russia to Tokyo and then landed in Seattle. At any point in time during this, he could have been turned back, though, and this could have been a horror story and another march to the death camps for these Jewish immigrants to the United States. His father started a wholesale jewelry business and made successful investments in stocks and real estate. The reason that's worth mentioning is I'm sure that had an impact on Zell when he was young and in his formative years. Zell took pictures of his prom and later sold them. He bought Playboys and sold them at a school for a 200% markup. Now, the important thing about that is it's displaying entrepreneurial tendencies even at a young age, so this would lend itself to him later establishing the companies that he did. Zell went to the University of Michigan and started managing apartments. By the time he graduated from the University of Michigan, he was netting around $150,000 a year. His fraternity brother, Robert Lurie, was helping him manage the units. Now, next, Zell went on to Michigan Law School, and by graduation, he and Lurie were managing 4,000 units, and Zell owned 200 personally. Shortly after that, Zell sold his interest to Lurie. Now, the reason that he did that is he wanted to go do something different, perhaps a little larger, per se. Zell worked as a lawyer for 1 week and then decided to go back to real estate. The partners at the firm noticed that he would be better served going to work in the real estate field, and they even offered to partner with him on buying a building in Toledo, Ohio. Zell purchased apartment buildings in Reno, Nevada, and in other areas as well. In 1968, he founded the predecessor of Equity Residential. Robert Lurie later partnered with him. And Lurie was the only partner that he had during the entirety of his career. In August 1993, he later acquired Barry Sternlitz's portfolio in exchange for 20% of his company at the time. In 1976, he founded EQ Office to buy office buildings. 30 years later, he sold the company to Blackstone. So this was in 2006, right before the great financial crisis. And he sold it for $36 billion, netting a hefty profit for him and his investors. There was a fight between him, Blackstone, and another group as well, but he sold it to Blackstone right before the great financial crisis, and Blackstone sold some of the properties for record amounts. But in 2009, the properties were worth less than their mortgages just because of what was happening in the overall economy. Things in real estate kind of went south. Zell owned other investments like Schwinn Bikes, Bicycle Company, Drugstore Revco, Silly, etc. And it's thanks to Zell's ability to revive projects and properties on the verge of the kiss of death that gave him the name Grave Dancer. One of the biggest scandals in Zell's investment and business career was his purchase and acquisition of the Tribune. He acquired the Tribune in 2007 by using leverage. The company was bought for $8.2 billion. And it was about a year, perhaps a year and a half later, that the company had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2008 due to a multitude of factors. Partly because of what was going on in the economy, because it was going south, and also Zell put Randy Michaels, a former radio executive with no newspaper experience, to be the CEO. He supposedly created a toxic culture and oversaw a layoff of 4,200 people. There was alleged sexual harassment and debasement that was happening at the Tribune at the time. Now, in my opinion, I think that part of this was due to what was happening in the overall economy, and also the trend in technology because people were moving away from printed media. For his philanthropic work, Zell endowed Wharton School of Business Real Estate Center. He endowed the Zell Lurie Institute of Research for the University of Michigan's. Zell gave $10 million to the Contemporary Art of Chicago, and he was married 3 times with 3 children. Now, what lessons can we take away from Sam Zell? Zell bought overlooked and undervalued opportunities. Shouldn't we all look for the opportunities available to us? Now, there's a good story by Russell Conwell called The Acres of Diamonds that relates this point very well, I would say. A poor African farmer heard about people finding diamonds on their farms, so he sold his farm to go look for diamonds. He spent years looking for diamonds. He didn't find any, so out of despair, he threw himself in the river. But the person that had bought the farm found diamonds on the farm because the farmer didn't know what they looked like. The point of the story is to look around because there's probably enough opportunity in what you're doing or related to what you're doing to be able to provide you with a fantastic living. And Zell's success did not come overnight. If you take a look at it, even with the equity residential start and sale to Blackstone was about a 30-year period, at the very least. So we're talking about decades of time over a long and storied career. And he consistently applies strategies and investments over a long period, allowing for his investments to realize their potential. If you want to achieve something in your personal life or to start a business, the best thing that you can do is to find something and to stick with it. Because eventually the newness of it and the excitement is going to wear off. And then you have to consistently stay with it over a long, protracted period of time. It's not very sexy, unfortunately, but that is the only way to be able to achieve long lasting success. Most overnight success doesn't really happen that way. There are a few stories of such, but usually, if you take a look in the background, people were working and building towards them for a decade or more. Zell's real estate empire spanned various property types and sectors. Zell showed adaptability by navigating different market conditions and adjusting his strategies accordingly. He operated in the 1980s during the savings and loan crisis, when a lot of real estate projects were going under just because of the economic conditions at the time with extremely high interest rates. Can you imagine an 18% mortgage, for instance? This was a reality in the time period in which Zell was operating. So the current economic conditions that we are suffering in are different. This is true, but he was able to operate and adjust to them appropriately. We should take a similar approach to our own careers and lives as well. We should take a look and try to adapt to them. And not to say what should be or what shouldn't be. That won't help you. What will is looking at the reality of the situation of what's going on and then adjusting appropriately. Zell's success stemmed from his constant thirst for knowledge and curiosity. He stayed informed about market trends, economic indicators, and industry developments. The focus on continuous learning allowed him to make informed decisions and stay ahead of the curve. If you take a look at it, most people don't keep reading past high school or college. That's the last time they picked up a book to learn anything new. Is there a reason why most people stagnate to a certain degree or level? It's because they're not investing time into growing. And honestly, if you take a look at some job boards or something, you're probably one skill, course, or certification away from a much more rewarding or high paying job or line of work. And rewarding doesn't necessarily mean financial, it could mean emotional too. If you hate your job, I would take steps to be able to deliberately walk away and move to a different line of work. And it won't happen overnight. That's unrealistic unless you have tremendous savings or opportunity to do something else. But it could happen in a couple of years. Why not? Why couldn't you do something else if you don't or dislike what you're doing? You're spending so much of your time there. Zell's involvement in philanthropic and civic engagement demonstrates the importance of giving back to society. He made a significant contribution to educational institutions that he cared about. In Western society, there's a demonization of monetary success. But really, all money is a tool. It allows you to do great good and great evil, depending upon what you choose to do with it. And the important thing to note about Zell is he could have not given any of it away. He's not required to. He took the opportunity and made the choice to do so. There's an important story that I think that really illustrates this point really well. On John D. Rockefeller's desk, there was supposed to have been a note, or a piece of paper, if you will, that said he'd spend the first half of his life amassing a vast fortune, and he spent the second half giving it all away. Now, imagine that you had written a similar note, and that inspired you to be able to go out and raise a vast fortune just to give it all away. Don't you think that would have an impact on you on a daily basis, or alter your decisions on how you're going to go about things? Thank you for listening.